Donald Trump appears to be caving. Donald Trump appears to be backing down as the public pressure grows against his despicable regime and the Border Patrol and ICE cold-blooded murders in Minnesota and throughout the rest of the country. Donald Trump just posted a message saying he had a very respectful conversation with Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. And Donald Trump posted this message when hours before he attacked the state of Minnesota and said they were involved in all of this fraud. And now Donald Trump appears to be backing down. Let me read to you the message that Donald Trump posted. And this, as the pressure from the American people has reached a fever pitch following the murder, the cold-blooded murder of Alex Jeffrey Pretty. Here's the message that Donald Trump posted moments ago. He goes, Governor Tim Walz called me with the request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a very good call, and we actually seem to be on a similar wavelength. I told Governor Walz that I would have Tom Homan call him and that we are looking for any and all criminals that they have in their possession. The governor very respectfully understood that, and I will be speaking to him in the near future. He was happy that Tom Homan was going to Minnesota, and so am I. We have had such tremendous success in Washington, D.C., Memphis, Tennessee, and New Orleans, Louisiana, and virtually every other place that we have, quote, touched. And even in Minnesota, crime is way down. But both Governor Walz and I want to make it better. President Donald J. Trump, crime was down in Minnesota before you got there because of the work of Governor Walz and local law enforcement. You've made things worse. You've been calling Governor Walz a felon. You've called him Tampon Tim. You've called for his arrest. You defamed him, by the way, hours before you posted this message. So Donald Trump is obviously caving, and this is how he goes about it. The same way Donald Trump says that he made a deal with Greenland and Denmark after threatening to invade Greenland. This is what Donald Trump does. He makes things up. He lies when he backs down. And he goes, oh, yes, Governor Walz is very glad that Tom Homan, the border czar, is heading into Minnesota. Yeah, I don't think Governor Walz wants Tom Homan in his state. I think Governor Walz will be glad that the Trump regime may be sending their Border Patrol and ICE Gestapo to leave the great state of Minnesota, as the people of Minnesota powerfully stood up to Donald Trump and his repressive regime. And this is what you need to do to punch back against the bully. Peacefully protest, uniting as a community, and standing up against this authoritarian regime. And you see that Donald Trump caves over and over again when you stand up to him. And this is how Donald Trump tries to find his off-ramp. Now, here's what Donald Trump posted earlier this morning. He wrote, and J.D. Vance reposted, I am sending Tom Homan to Minnesota tonight. He has not been involved in that area, but knows and likes many of the people there. Tom is tough but fair and will report directly to me. Separately, a major investigation is going on with respect to the massive $20 billion plus welfare fraud that has taken place in Minnesota and is at least partially responsible for the violent organized protests going on in the streets. Additionally, the DOJ and Congress are looking at Congresswoman, and he puts that in quotes, Ilhan Omar, who left Somalia with nothing and is now reportedly worth more than $44 million. Time will tell all. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. So he went from posting that earlier in the morning to now posting, I've had a great conversation with Governor Walz, a very respectful one, and we talked about ways to make things better. After he just defamed Minnesota again, attacked Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, made up more lies about rampant fraud taking place to the tune of $20 billion as pretext for ICE and Border Patrol Gestapo when fraud was being prosecuted under former President Biden, and Donald Trump's the one pardoning the fraudsters and criminals. But also Donald Trump posted this morning. Fake and fraudulent polling should be virtually a criminal offense. As an example, all of the anti-Trump media that covered me during the 2020 election showed polls that were knowingly wrong. And then Donald Trump says, the failing New York Times, the ABC fake news, NBC fake news, CBS fake news, low rating CNN, or now defunct MSDNC. The polls are all fraudulent. And Donald Trump goes on to threaten that I'm going to sue all of you for your fraudulent polls. By the way, earlier this morning, as part of Donald Trump's caving and capitulation, he sent on state regime media Todd Blanche, his number 2 at the Department of Justice. And Todd Blanche said that no one in the regime ever talked about how there was, how Alex Pretty was there to massacre people or to harm people. That's not what we said at all, because the Fox host was pissed. I'm going to show you what happened. The Fox host said, you're out there calling Alex Pretty a domestic terrorist and saying he was there to massacre massacre the Border Patrol and ICE Gestapo. That's not what was happening. Watch what Todd Blanche says here. Play this clip.
With all due respect, sir, my question is more pointed. Do you believe your colleagues may have gone farther? You are an attorney at DOJ. 18 U.S. Code 2331 has a legal definition of domestic terrorism, and it doesn't appear to most of the country that have watched the available video, and we'll see if there's body cam video. I'd love to know if that's going to come out, if there was such a thing, but it does not appear to have met that definition of domestic terrorism. So I'm just sort of wondering how you in the DOJ are viewing whether your colleagues may have gone too far.
Look, I don't think anybody thinks that they were comparing what happened on Saturday to the legal definition of domestic terrorism. What we saw was a very violent altercation, and I am not going to prejudge the facts. You're right. There's a bunch of video that's out there. There's a bunch of video that we haven't seen yet in the minutes leading up to what happened and in what happened afterwards. And you're right, to the extent there's body cam or other videos that witnesses are still providing to us. So I'm not describing it as anything except for a tragedy.
Okay, well, here's what Stephen Miller posted. Miller wrote, a domestic terrorist tried to assassinate federal law enforcement, and this is your response? You and the state's entire Democratic leadership team have been flaming the flames of insurrection for the singular purpose of stopping the deportation of illegals who invaded the country. And as our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, wrote back on January 24th, when Miller posted this, filming federal agents is only domestic terrorism to fascists. Trump's regime was saying that Alex Pretty was a domestic terrorist there to massacre Border Patrol and ICE Gestapo. Just so you can see for yourself, this was Greg Bovino and Kristi Noem literally saying the exact same thing after Alex Pretty was murdered. And Blue Georgia did a good side-by-side cut here. Play this clip.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds. He also had no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
Magic Spoon is basically the grown-up version of your favorite childhood cereals. It's that same fun taste, but none of the sugar bomb. High-protein, zero-sugar cereal that still hits that nostalgic Saturday morning note. Like I said, Magic Spoon is nostalgic. It tastes like the classics you grew up with, but without the sugar crash. Each serving packs 13 grams of protein, 5 grams net carbs, and 0 grams of sugar. So it actually keeps you fueled any time of the day. Breakfast, late night snack, post-workout, whenever. They've got a bunch of classic flavors like fruity, frosted, hot chocolate, cinnamon toast, and more. That cinnamon toast, that one's my favorite. New flavors launching in January include classic marshmallow. Now that's reminiscent of a certain childhood favorite enjoyed by all. And s'mores, the ultimate campfire-inspired cereal. Those both include real marshmallows and have 2 grams of sugar as opposed to 0 grams in the original cereal, but I'm cool to make that exception. Magic Spoon also has Magic Spoon treats. These Magic Spoon treats are crispy, airy, protein-packed snack bars with 12 grams of protein, great for tossing in your bag, keeping in the car, or grabbing between meetings. Flavors include marshmallow, chocolate peanut butter, dark chocolate, and more. These feel like a treat but actually function like a protein bar, so they scratch the sweet tooth itch without all the sugar. And last but certainly not least, there's Magic Spoon Granola. 13 grams of protein, 0 added sugar, perfect for yogurt bowls or a quick handful snacking. Comes in dark chocolate almond, honey almond, peanut butter, and additional flavors. All of Magic Spoon's products are easy anytime. Breakfast snack, pre-workout, post-workout, or midnight snack. Look for Magic Spoon on Amazon or at your nearest grocery store, or get $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com/Midas. That's magicspoon.com/Midas for $5 off.
And earlier this morning, you had the Wall Street Journal editorial board publishing the following. This is backfiring against Republicans. Americans don't want law enforcement shooting people in the streets or arresting 5-year-old boys. The headline from the Wall Street Journal op-ed was, "Time for ICE to pause in Minneapolis. Alex Pretty made a mistake, but he wasn't a domestic terrorist." What mistake did he make, though, Wall Street Journal? We have a First Amendment right to peacefully protest. He was there peacefully protesting. The ICE and Border Patrol Gestapo, who were terrorizing the community, they were brutalizing and pepper spraying a female protester, and Alex Pretty went to simply help her when he was pepper sprayed, gang tackled, and beaten by the Border Patrol Gestapo before he was murdered. So what mistake did he make? There's a First Amendment right there. There's also a Second Amendment right, the right to bear arms. And Pretty had a legal permit to conceal carry a handgun. He was not brandishing the gun. He didn't point it. In fact, what happened, and we all saw the videos, a Border Patrol agent removed the gun from the holster, and then when he was completely helpless, Pretty was murdered. There was no mistakes made right here. And all of the Trump regime sycophants, the cabinet members, the MAGA Republicans in the House and Senate who say that if you bring a gun to a protest, you deserve to be killed, which is what the Trump regime was saying. They just showed they never cared about the Second Amendment ever. They were never First Amendment absolutists. They don't care about anything other than hoisting up their own dictator to suck up all the wealth of this country and give it to the right-wing oligarchs and screw over the people. As the Wall Street Journal board, though, says, Americans don't want law enforcement shooting people in the streets or arresting 5-year-old boys or kidnapping 2-year-old girls. The American people just want health care. The American people want to afford homes. The American people want good education. The American people want to go and afford their groceries. That's what the American people want, to go about living our lives without a ranting, raving maniac talking about, oh, the fake polls this, the fake polls that, Greenland this, Greenland that. We've seen all these messages from MAGA supporters as well, and I think this is one of the reasons Trump has caved as well. You've got MAGA supporters burning their MAGA hats. You have Kyle writing, "I voted for Trump. I supported most of his policies. I agree with conservatives most of the time, but I will not partake in this. If exercising your Second Amendment right warrants your death, if rendering aid to your fellow countrymen warrants a death sentence, if constitutional rights take a backseat to administrative policies, or infringements are a justified means to an end, I will not partake." Amy, another Trump supporter, says, "I don't say this lightly. I can no longer support Trump. The actions carried out by ICE are wrong and inhumane, and leadership is responsible for it. Accountability matters, and so does humanity. There was a time when I felt I could support Trump, even if I didn't agree with everything. But watching what's happened with ICE changed that for me completely. The cruelty, the lack of humanity, the suffering of families. It's not something I can justify or look away from. This isn't about politics anymore. It's about basic human decency, and I cannot support anyone who allows that to be violated." Or Grace, "I would like to hear from other Trump supporters. How are you feeling about the last 3 weeks with ICE shootings and murder? Because I no longer can support a president that shows no remorse and continues to allow this to go on. I'm beyond sad. My heart is hurting. And to be clear, yes, I've been a libertarian for many years, and I also am a Trump supporter for several years. I have my reasons, and now I'm not." Even MAGA Republican governor from Florida, Ron DeSantis, is out there attacking the regime right now.